Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world. These are trying and perilous times that can be overwhelming in the day to day, but it's most important in times like this to think about strategy and to think about the big picture. And I can think of nobody better to help us do that than a man that I have been honored to meet. I am thrilled and humbled to have on this show one of the most brilliant minds of our time and a true hero for America and for democracy. The great and powerful Garry Kasparov is here on Independent Americans. Sir, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
It is such an honor to speak to you. I have followed your work, your patriotic and freedom supporting work. As I told you as we were getting ready, I also have two boys who love chess and consider you a hero, and they're learning about your history. And there's so much for us to get into. But maybe I can start, sir. We met briefly last year at your RDI event, which was a true pleasure for me. But can I ask you, I ask this of all our guests, Garry, where are you and how are you? In the midst of all this and all the threats to you and the people around you, how are you doing and where are you?
As of now, I am on the Upper West Side. So in 2013, I had to leave Russia for good, facing imminent arrest for my very, very peaceful protest against rising Putin's dictatorship. So I settled here in New York, so with my wife and two kids. I have two kids also from my previous life, but these two kids, they are born and raised in New York. Her daughter is 18, she's a senior, she goes to Columbia next year, and the little one is 9, so he's fourth grader. So it's the same as your oldest kid. Back in 2017, I formed here in America a 501c3 named Renewed Democracy Initiative, RDI, with an idea to explain to Americans about potential threats to democracy that may come from both sides. So I was really troubled to see that America's elections in 2015, 2016 cycle polarized the country. And that's what I know as a good scholar of history, as somebody who was born and raised on the other side of Iron Curtain and just had to deal with the very harsh Soviet realities. That democracy cannot be simply destroyed by being attacked from one side, but when it's being sieged by extremism on both sides. I always remind people that Adolf Hitler hasn't won elections in Germany back in 1932, but he got 37%, while the communists got 16%. Which meant that more than half of Germans rejected a democracy. And I saw that American democracy experienced not something similar, but again, the symptoms I didn't like. The attack on liberal democracy from the right, from rising MAGA, and also attack on the market economy from the left. And I was afraid that these two powerful forces will be tearing apart the strengths of American democracy, which was always in the middle. And the idea was also to bring dissidents, people like me, to talk to Americans about value of democracy, because we found out that many Americans, just especially young Americans, they don't understand. They were so lucky, privileged to be born and raised in a free country, the freest country in the world. And I'm shocked to see numbers like dozens, percentage-wise. I think 30+% of young Americans, they think positively about communism without even understanding, the horrors that were brought by communism in the 20th century, and not recognizing that when you have communism, then next door you have fascism. So they like, twin brothers, but just, they fight each other, but they always, prey on democracy, on the center. So I built RDI, so it's became a very prominent organization with many people. We have former senators, we have members of the board, we have actually probably the most militarized 501c3 in America. We have two military men in our board, General Hodges and Lieutenant Colonel Windman, and we have top brass in our advisory board, General McChrystal, and actually lately we got General Milley joining us on our advisory board. And the event that you mentioned was the RDI Hero of Freedom Award last year, and we had it this year as well. And this year, the main award went to Admiral McCraven, who delivered absolutely phenomenal speech. I wish this 9 minutes of his speech, could become a sermon. Every morning, I would force Americans to listen to the speech of Admiral McCraven, which had a very simple, but such, just its powerful title, "We are the good guys." I mean, not talking about geopolitics, just we are the good guys. And that's how I saw America. Again, back in the 70s or 80s, back in the Soviet Union, we looked at America as the beacon of hope, the fortress of freedom, the guardian of global democracy. And I can tell you, Evans, what's happening now, it's shocking experience for many people who left behind. So they look at America and they scratch their heads. They don't understand what's happening. How come that the country that was always, the symbol of bright future, I mean, became so much obsessed with the past, with crazy ideas, and somehow it's, instead of being a leader of the free world, became buddy with the worst dictators.
Garry, we have a lot of intersection points around RDI. I mentioned to you I had lunch with astronaut Scott Kelly right before he came to your event. Admiral McCraven, I think, is a beacon of conscience, especially for the military community. Colonel Vindman has been on this show, and I think there's this moment where, especially American military voices like Colonel Vindman, can, I hope, multiply and seize this moment where the purge can become the patriotic. But there's still a lacking national alternative narrative, right? And you've been, I think, a flashing warning sign for America for many years now. But you mentioned McCraven and the power of his words. There has been a lack of alternate narrative to Donald Trump, where we can show America, show the world we are the good guys, right? And I've been trying to highlight them on this show. But can you cut to the strategy for the two-headed monster? And I know you have intersections, that is Putin and Trump. Rather than talking only about what's happening now, if you were advising a rational president, what would you advise be the strategy for combating Putin specifically now?
Yeah, unfortunately, we are not dealing just with Trump, who came out of the blue. We are dealing with a trend in American politics, in American geopolitical strategy, or lack of thereof, that started probably at the end of the Cold War. While during, the Clinton years or Bush 43, so it was not felt as emergency. But with Obama, Trump, Biden, we got presidents that didn't believe in American exceptionalism, didn't believe in America's leading role, and what Trump is doing in his reckless way is just what Biden did in his feckless way, and
Right.
and Obama initiated this retreat from the global arena. I don't know, out of naivete or whatever the reasons, definitely lack of experience, but it created vacuum. And this vacuum was filled because there is no vacuum in geopolitics. You walk away from Syria or from Iraq and somebody else comes in. Who will come in? The bad guys. So you have China, you have Russia, you have ISIS, Al Qaeda. I mean, I'm not here to talk about all connections, because I believe most of terrorist organizations have been conceived in KGB labs. And they still have very powerful influence over this crop spread around the Middle East, and that's actually even beyond that. But it's a crisis because we have someone who is not simply abandoning America's role in the world, but moreover, which is much worse, is trying to make a deal, whether it's Putin or whoever. So he's looking at every dictator as the ideal partner to make a deal, because the way Donald Trump thinks about deals, it's again, it's always transaction. There are no values. So the idea of we are the good guys just doesn't even come close to his. So it's basically it's antithesis to Trump's philosophy, which is, again, let's get rich, and the way he's negotiating now with Putin is it's not about America, it's not about Ukraine, it's not about Russia. It's about two bosses. I would even say mafia bosses trying to find the best deal for them. And what America had to do, let's not make concentrate on Trump only, because Joe Biden administration could actually finish this war back in 22 or 23. if they had a policy which said Ukraine must win. We're still dealing, the fourth year of the war, we're still dealing with the paralysis of European leaders that cannot clearly, pronounce Ukraine must win. It's not about we stand as long as it takes. We have to make sure Ukraine must win, which means in military terms or in chess terms, Russia must lose.
Yeah.
But the moment you say Russia must lose, yeah, you see they're shivering, they're trembling. Yeah. So how come Russia has nukes? Putin is, yeah, but that's it. That's why Ukraine cannot win the war. That's why we're all on the losing side, because Putin doesn't care and he just keeps pushing. Putin doesn't understand any other language but force. And America had huge opportunities, missed opportunities during the first 2 years of war. And I'm not a military expert, but I think many of your viewers know there are thousands of tanks collecting dust in Nevada or Arizona or in California in the deserts. And these tanks, could be on Ukrainian front. America gave Ukraine 31 tanks, 31. I mean, it's a shame. So there's so much could be done by just using the old weapons, outdated weapons that were built, and that's important, were built primarily to fight Russians. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you have an army of volunteers, great brave soldiers fighting Russians, destroying Russian military potential, and the weapon that has been designed to fight Russians and could be used now without a single risk without any risk for American lives, it's still sitting, in the storages and keep collecting dust.
I've talked a lot on this show about how Biden made Zelensky play a game of Mother May I, right? It was may I have ATACMS, may I have Abrams, may I have F-16s, right? And the path to victory, was through defeating Russia, and I would argue ultimately through destroying Putin. But that is hard for Americans to say, or at least American politicians.
But before saying destroying Putin, I know. But let's do it step by step. This is how about destroying the bridge? Yeah. I mean, the fact is that the bridge is still standing there.
Yes.
The bridge, which is it's such an easy target, a looming target. So that was.
But I think this is why your voice is so important, Garry, because this is independent Americans. We've been critical of all sides. Most Americans are unhappy with the Republicans and the Democrats. I think this is the underserved majority. It's where we see so many young veterans stepping forward, the truly patriotic, who put country over any party. And I think your clear-headedness with Biden and Trump.
How I described the last elections in America: losers versus traitors.
Yeah.
And the losers lost, which they deserve to lose. But the problem is now you have traitors in power.
So let me ask you this, because again, let's stick with strategy here, right? You have been a dissident, you've been a political opponent, you're a master strategist. For most Americans right now who are watching what Trump is doing to destroy our democracy, to make us no longer look like the good guys, to compromise our moral integrity, to be a leader our kids can't look up to, in this world of overflow, right, where every 2 hours there's some crazy new shit that he's doing, how do you advise Americans to approach this strategically? What should they be focused on, and how can they maximize their limited effort to support a better future for America?
Okay. First of all, Genesis, we have to identify the threat.
Yeah.
So, and the threat is existential, I believe. So the next year, we all celebrate the 250th anniversary of one of the greatest documents in history of humanity, Declaration of Independence. And that was a foundation for the greatest democracy on Earth. And to preserve these institutions, we have to make sure that we recognize the lethal threat coming from Trump and MAGA, because they are not hiding these threats, but they know how to wrap it. So they use traditional strategy called divide and conquer, and that's why many of the attacks against the fundamental elements of American republic have been wrapped in the campaign against the Vogue, DEI, and the far left. Which again, many of these policies, even I would support, because we knew that Democrats pushed too far left. But the problem is that now this has been used to undermine the fundamental freedoms that Americans enjoyed for 200, actually probably more, even just before 1776, so years, for centuries. So Trump's power is based very much on unwavering support of Republicans, of GOP, of cowardly GOP in the Senate and in the House. So you have 3 members of the House and 4 senators. That's all you need to shift the balance. The moment they lose the total control of these institutions, everything changes. Because right now, Trump is using the House, the Senate, to paralyze the judiciary, basically saying, I don't want to follow the Supreme Court decision, which is, again, unheard. So the only president who has decided not to follow, I think, was Andrew Jackson, but it was a very complicated case about Indian and white settlers in the state of Georgia back in 1832, I'm sure. Yeah. So now, what can we do to make sure that Republicans will not follow Trump sheepishly? I think it's just talk is cheap, words are cheap. We still have instruments of elections. And I think it's very important that we'll identify the most vulnerable seats in the House, in the Senate, especially in the House, because Senate is more challenging, but still look at them and make sure that they will own Trump's policies. When Senator Cornyn, for instance, let's talk about Texas 2026, or Senator Tillis, North Carolina, when they go to elections, they will own their votes. For Tulsi Gabbard, she's, I believe, Russian asset. So for Kash Patel, for Hegseth, they have to own their votes, and they will have to be responsible for all disasters brought by Trump's nominees that do not belong there. So let's start building the momentum, because they already feel heat. You see what's happening on these town halls? They just call police. They try to walk away. They try to shield themselves from the criticism. Step up. Put more pressure on them. I mean, they're humans. Why are they doing that? Because they've been terrorized by Elon Musk, who is saying, oh, you vote against Trump? I will raise $10 million for primary challenge. Okay, that's a real threat. Elon Musk can put $10 million but for how many he can put 10 millions? And by the way, America is a big country. If we get together, we're bigger than Elon Musk. So this is, what about the big Democratic donors? So, and the simple question, you want to do good things? You want to be a good guy? Whatever your name is, you're a Republican from one of the purple districts. So yes, you have a risk of a primary challenge, but you will be dead because we'll put all the money for the main elections, and you will be killed. Because if you have a primary challenge there, you will have to go right to compete with the MAGA crazy, and you will have no chance in general elections. So if you want to survive, we're willing to support you. We will give you support. Vote against Trump. We'll make sure that you will not be toppled by the primary challenge, and we can make a deal. So we'll keep you there. If you now change the sides. Again, it's a little bit maybe of a fantasy because it doesn't work this way, but we need to actually concentrate on things that still in our, just at our disposal. American Constitution is still in action, but it's in grave danger. And we should remember that this is 2026 election is not just ordinary elections, because it's a moment where Trump will face a risk of losing everything. They cannot lose control of the House because they lose power of the purse. Senate will be a total disaster. So, question you should ask: do you believe that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel will follow constitutional Trump's orders when it comes to Trump losing power, considering what they did on January 6th? So, and those situations would be much murkier than a clear coup that they planned back in 2021. So it's time for us to start building this, not simply resistance, but an army of followers who clearly, connected to one goal, which is defend American Constitution, stop arguing about other things that could divide us. We need a big tent, and put more and more pressure on the Republicans on both chambers. So make
Garry,
sure that they will recognize that they will be dead meat if they stick with Trump.
Garry, how do you have been nonpartisan, bipartisan? How do you view that actually unfolding? Because the Democrats are not going to save us here. We're looking for voices like McCraven and like others that are outside of the political system. People like General Milley, you mentioned. Like, I feel like in this moment, we need them to step beyond what they've been comfortable with in the past as political actors, right? So how do we actually if the white side of the board keeps getting wiped out, right? How do we keep investing in that? Where do we invest our time between now and that 2026 place where we can actually win, right? Because it doesn't look like the Democrats can save us. Where can we win?
Look, they're Democrats and Democrats. So I hope that there's a little progress there, actually, more than a little progress. And you have more reasonable people getting in. So you see that's the on the front line of this battle, people like Senator Cali or Congressman Richie Torres or Jason Crow. So again, you hear more moderate, more reasonable voices. I'm not happy with
Yeah, but you also see Bernie Sanders and AOC getting
yeah, you see
35,000 people, right?
And also I also see Schumer and Pelosi.
Yeah.
So that's if Biden is out, why they're there. So obviously this Democrats not an answer, but we missed our opportunity. I've been arguing for a long time that America needed, just to create an alternative, and the best moment to create an alternative was in 2024 presidential elections. It's a shame that there's no one like Chris Christie or whoever, Nikki Haley. Somebody had to.
Or Admiral McRaven.
Somebody had to, because it was a unique moment where country was fed up with the choices. Yeah. So look, Trump, Biden, or Kamala Harris, but Trump. You needed just to preserve an alternative. The argument that they had is yes, but it will end up with Trump's victory. Trump won anyway, but it could be an interesting it's exercise to create an alternative and both to force both parties to look just in the center, not inward, not to the extreme wings of their parties. Because again, let's fantasize. 2024, you had a strong candidate. Again, Nikki Haley, Admiral McRaven. I can bet you my bottom dollar, it would end up in the House. Because it was very, very clear that is just, that the strong candidate would have carried some states. Three horse race, it's very unpredictable. And again, with the level of negatives against Trump and Biden Harris, so we definitely would see the strong third independent candidate winning some states. Not enough, but it would go to the House. And then we have a story. Democrat is dead in the House. So the choice will be between the independent and Trump. And the argument I said, I heard this. Yeah, but Trump would terrorize Republicans. Let's see what happens, because it's the way it works in an American Constitution is that if it goes to the House, which happened in 1800 and in 1824, so then each state has one vote, which means Wyoming has one vote with only three members of the Congress. So 2 senators and one member of the House, and New York and California and Texas have also one vote. So 50-50 votes. But you never know what happens with somebody from Wyoming or Montana, because all of a sudden these people will have to make a choice. And going with an independent, a strong independent, who, by the way, most of them will share his views if Admiral McRaven, it could give them a chance not to be a backbench to the rest of their lives, but become a member of the administration. It's a game. But that's how you fight. People always wanted to actually have a safe passage. Oh, it doesn't work because there's no guarantee. I said, yes, there's no guarantee but if you do nothing, there's a guarantee Trump will come back. So let's recognize we have to take risks now. And I'm not telling you there's a winning strategy, because we're in deep shit. I mean, let's be objective.
Yeah.
And we just have to put pressure. Why I was so adamant condemning Schumer's decision. And even had just on my Substack, we had an interesting debate with former Congressman Mickey Edwards, who was also a former member of RDI board. So I said Schumer was wrong, Schumer was right. Again, strong arguments. And I respected Mickey's position, but the problem is you have to fight. This is not about, this is shut down or not. You understand that people will suffer greatly if democracy is infringed. And
Garry, can I ask you?
Giving if we're at war, you don't see territory without a fight. So it's not about we have to build new defense lines. No. This with Trump, fight. Make sure that that he's forced to negotiate, or let him violate the law. Let him shut down, and he'll start firing people. He'll create more enemies. And let's see how many Republicans are willing to play the game. Again, it's a racist majority in the House. So put them in a comfortable position. So it's so far again, this is the Democrats just don't have strategy, don't have guts, don't have energy. Okay, what energy? Schumer. He doesn't have energy. Pelosi. I mean, you need energy. And because Trump is its animal instincts. You saw this is, it's Trump and Vance versus Harris and Valls. I mean, it's how on earth she could have picked up Valls. I mean, the guy says, I'm a knucklehead on TV. So you had a choice between McCraven, Kelly, Senator Kelly, and Shapiro. So that you could pick up a governor, a firebrand, a governor of Pennsylvania, the largest battleground state, which would almost, it's guaranteed you 19 electoral college votes. So, and she went with, okay, she was comfortable with him, but that's not how you win elections. I believe that the last chance was missed when she picked up Waltz, and September 30th debate on television. Yeah. That was the end. Because
I made a passionate case
was there, and Waltz was, again, he was assistant coach. The guy's a loser. It's written on his face. Loser.
I made a passionate case for Senator Kelly as someone who could be strong, who could be a unifier, who could especially talk national security and crime and the border and attract independence. They obviously went in another direction. Let me ask you this, Garry. Your new project is called The Next Move. You've been kind of a Nostradamus of what is to come in America for many years now. People sometimes are paralyzed by the fear of what can be coming, or they can be motivated by it. Can you predict, as you would in a chess game or any other kind of strategy, lay out for people in simple terms, what does the scenario look like between now and the end of the year for Trump? What's he going to do? What's it going to look like? What should we anticipate in specific terms between now and, let's say, the end of the calendar year, if he continues to steamroll like he is now? What does it look like?
One correction: remove if. He will continue steamroll.
Thank you.
That's it. It's Trump. Did you watch the movie Apprentice?
Yes.
Yeah. This is the lesson. Lesson number 3. Actually, my daughter wrote a great essay about it for her school paper, because she was kind of a critic, art critic. So never accept defeat. Always turn it into victory. Trump doesn't accept defeat. He's losing 9-0 in Supreme Court. He says, I won 9-0. He doesn't care. Yeah. So you have a press secretary of the White House. She lies. I mean, she makes a statement about 10 sentences. 5 of them are lies. Not fake news, lies. Straight face. So they will keep pushing. They will be double down. So he loses here, okay. The war will be over in 1 day. No. It was kind of a figure of speech. In 100 days. No. It's just a Biden's war. He will keep creating problems and problems. So that's why Trump will never stop. He doesn't care about the wreckage of the country. I mean, at the end of the day, the guy had 6 bankruptcies. It's when somebody talks about heart of the deal, great business person, 6 bankruptcies. So do you think he cares if he bankrupts America? It will be 7th bankruptcy. And by the way, probably will be the best one, because he can make himself and people around him very rich. America is just it's the best asset to squeeze dry. That's what he did with his previous 6 bankruptcies.
So what are the biggest moves, Garry? Does he invoke the Insurrection Act? What are the big moves that you think?
I mean, think about what you're afraid of and double it. So he will do whatever. So again, it says, and Trump will not stop until he's stopped. And this is unless people around him recognize that they are in danger, they will not abandon Trump. So again, ask the same question: Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, will they follow Constitution or Trump's orders? So Hegseth, again,
I know the answer to that, right? We see that now. They're not going to abide by the Supreme Court decisions.
That's why again, let's just put more pressure on the House and the Senate. So support the judges. I mean, this is just make sure that the judicial system survives, because there's onslaught on that. Support it. I mean, just show strength. Maybe sometimes you should go to the streets, but I think streets are less, influential in Trump's world. So I think it's more important. It's the town halls. Go on town halls and just put their feet on fire on the town halls. So just again, they have to go back to Washington and feel that that's it. We'll be thrown away. And while Trump has immunity, just guaranteed by again stupid decisions, but okay, Supreme Court. So this, but people around him do not have immunity. And Trump, first thing Trump did, he pardoned January 6th insurrectionists. Why? Just to send a signal. You stay with me, I'll pardon you. But now the answer is, okay, you pardon them. But the next president, if we get it, so the next president will basically annul your pardons, because again, it says you already did so many things. We'll play the same ball. But also don't laugh at when Trump says third term. I remember I had a podcast with Preet Bharara just after Trump's election, and I asked him about the third term, and he said, it's ironclad. I said, are you sure? He said, absolutely. He said, Trump will talk about it. He said, no, impossible. He already is talking about it. So don't laugh. And again, anytime you go to a town hall, you meet your senator, do you support the third term or say that it's illegally constitutional? Put pressure, make them talk about supporting or removing their support from Trump's reckless actions.
Garry, I don't know if can you stay around for a couple of extra questions for our Patreon members, but thank you for that. So Patreon members will get an extra couple of questions with Garry. But before we do, let me ask you the final question here, Garry. What about for you? If there's a scenario where things change in Russia, would you go back to Russia? You've been a powerful voice on the international stage now. You've been rising to this moment. You have this new effort. You have the RDI, but I'm sure you're constantly calibrating how you can make the most impact. But what about for you? What does it look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
First of all, let's inform your audience that this is probably the first time you are interviewing an indicted terrorist.
Yes.
I'm a terrorist in Russia.
Yes.
Yeah. So I warned on my arrest on the charge of terrorism, and also this is in the second case is on state treason. So anytime I'm not just going back to Russia, but in any country that have friendly ties with Putin, I'll be apprehended and sent back. Some people say now that I should be careful here in America.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you to follow up there. I mean, how do you assess the threat from Trump to name you like he just did Miles Taylor or somebody else in an executive?
Look, okay, let him do that. So I still believe this in this country. It's there is a law. So and let him, if he wants to pick up a fight, okay. I just I'm not trying to be careful with my words. I believe Trump is an existential threat to American Republic and to the world. So that's why, again, fighting Trump is a part of my fight for global freedom. There's a fight. That's RDI said it many years ago. It's a global fight between freedom and tyranny. The battleground now is in Ukraine, but all of a sudden we understand the battle is here as well. Because without America, the world it's not headless chicken, because Europe is now gradually waking up, but still America must go back to its historic role to lead the free world in never-ending battle for freedom against tyranny.
Garry, you've been a powerful voice. You're a vital voice, no more important than now. Thank you for your courage, for your sacrifice, for your courage that inspires and I think is contagious, and especially in what you're building with RDI and empowering other leaders. And I also just want to credit you for picking the hard path, but I think the right path for America in the future that's beyond the parties, and talking about people like Vindman and Milley and Kelly and McCraven. I think that they represent a powerful and important part of our future and a conscience, and you've been that for us. So thank you for all your good work and for your personal sacrifice. Keep it up, man. We've got your back, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.